The organizers for inviting me. I can see partially the room, and I have to say I have a very nice view from this side. Thank you to Liana and the team for organizing this important long-term speaking program that hopefully will bring us new experts and new ideas from the field of international. So before I start, let me just briefly introduce myself. My name is Anja Gengo, and I work for the IGF Secretariat. The Secretariat is based at the United Nations offices in Geneva, and its primary role is to make sure that the UN's Internet Governance Forum process goes in line with the IGF core principles. My primary tasks are first of all related to the work with many of the national, sub-regional, regional IGFs, but also something that's going to be very important for you, I think, which is very pleasant work with many of the youth IGFs. I am very glad that Armenia is among the countries that has a really good developed landscape when it comes to internet governance through the National IGF of Armenia, and wonderful stakeholders that are engaged and are really doing great work for the wider community. And I'm now even more excited, I have to say, for having the first youth school at the beginning has new ideas and new perspectives, because the wider IGF community is really eager to have you on board with us and discuss the most pertinent issues for the internet governance. So I don't know whether you can see a couple of slides that I have prepared just to briefly show you what is the IGF, what are the NRIs, how it works in practice, and most importantly for you, how you can engage and find your own place in this vast IG playground. So if you could see the slides, then let's yes.
You just tell me about changing the screen, about the slides. So it's now on the screen. You just tell me and I will switch on.
Okay, I will be telling you then when I move to another one. Thank you again. So we are on the second slide. Just to briefly see what is the Internet Governance Forum and how historically it was convened. So what I think for you, the message that you should take is that the IGF is being made by the community, under the UN's umbrella, and for the community. Everything basically started in 2003, when the World Summit on the Information Society was hosted, phase 1. At that time, the stakeholders were discussing that the internet and the challenges related with growing, and that the stakeholders would need a unique place and a working environment, globally speaking, just to get better and try to identify those challenges and also respond to them, with hopefully finding some good solutions and recommendations. So during that first phase, during VISAS, so the World Summit on Information Society, that was yes, as I said, in 2003, the stakeholders requested the United Nations Secretary-General at that time to establish a multi-stakeholder working group on internet governance, and that group indeed was established. It was taking care of mapping, first of all, what are the issues, what should be resolved, but mostly how it should be resolved. And what was agreed is that by everyone is that whatever they will come up with, it needs to be multi-stakeholder. So not just formed by governments or by civil society or by the technical community or private sector or media, but really by everyone because of the complexity of the internet governance related issues. And that working group prepared some very important documents, let's say, in 2005 when there was a second phase of the World Summit on the Information Society. Finally, the community came up with something that's called the Tunis Agenda, and that is a core document of the Internet Governance Forum when the United Nations Secretary-General was called to convene the IGF, which happened in 2006. So the mandate of the IGF is in that Tunis Agenda, paragraph 72, that you can find on the website. And you will see that the Tunis Agenda itself saying that the IGF is a multi-stakeholder forum, which means it's a place where all stakeholder groups are coming. The IGF recognizes four multi-stakeholder groups, so we have the governments, we have the private sector, the civil society, technical. And finally, the very first meeting of the IGF was happening in 2006 at the end of October, beginning of November. So if we go to the next slide, then we can just learn a bit about the organizational structure and how the IGF works since 2006. So I think there are two branches that you should know. The first one is that the so-called IGF MAG, or the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group to the United Nations Secretary-General. It was directly convened by the Secretary-General, with its primary role to advise on the program and on the schedule of the Internet Governance Forum meetings that are happening every year. So the MAG is composed of 55 members. There is a good balance in terms of stakeholder group representations, in terms of geographical representation by the UN groups, and also in terms of the gender representation. Every year, the MAG is being renewed by 1/3 of its members. So I believe at the end of this year, we will be, and the UN will be running the poll for nominations in order to renew the MAG group for at least 1/3. Usually, the members serve for up to 3 terms, which means 3 IGF cycles for 3 years. Beside the IGF MAG that is being chaired by the chair, and currently that's Ms. Lynn Senamore, there is something that's called the IGF Secretariat, which is a very small, perhaps a hard-working office that is based here in Geneva at the United Nations premises. And the Secretariat's role is, first of all, to be a neutral party that will coordinate the whole IGF process. That's a very challenging task because the IGF process, first of all, needs to be bottom-up, which means that the whole program of the IGF needs to be made by the community. You will know that, especially the ones that are actively participating in the, for example, Armenian National IGF, is that Armenia is having a very good process on that as well, where the community is being asked what are the issues of their concern, and based on those inputs, the agenda is being developed. So there is no top-down approach. There is no, in terms of the UN's IGF, the UN doesn't come with the agenda, but the UN, through the IGF Secretariat, through the IGF Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group, asks the community by initiating a public call for inputs, what are the issues, and based on that, every year, the agenda is being developed by the members of the MAG. So the IGF Secretariat is being led by the IGF Program and Technology Manager, Mr. Chethan Sango. I think you will most probably have an opportunity to meet him, especially if you will attend the Global IGF in December. So if we move to the next slide, as I said, I already tackled this very important point on the IGF process. So what I think we should all take note is that the IGF really is not all about organizing one conference during the year. It's going to be 3-4 days long, but it's really about the whole process that goes throughout the year. So how does it start? So as soon as the MAG is appointed by the Secretary-General of the United Nations, then we have the common consultations and MAG meeting. Usually there are 2 to 3 MAG meetings during the year before the annual meeting. And on those meetings, the MAG members are discussing how the program will be set for that particular year. After that, the MAG agrees on what will be the community intersessional work. And this is a core, I think, part for you, for your interest, which I will come in just in a couple of seconds. In more details, but in any case, the community intersessional work is basically the work that's happening between 2 IGF annual meetings with the aim to have presented the outcomes of this community intersessional work at the annual meeting. And let me show you how that will work in practice. And of course, this process ends with the annual IGF meeting. So if we go to the next slide, here you have very practically illustrated how the IGF intersessional work really works in practice. So, as I said, at the beginning of the one IGF cycle, or 1 year, the MAG agrees what will be the topics of interest following inputs from the community. They are formed under the term best practice forums. So basically the best practice forums are, let's say, the work where the community joins every stakeholders, individuals and organizations on a particular topic. They are giving their contributions, whether those are written contributions, if somebody has, let's say, a good research, or if someone's organization is dealing with the matter and then they just contribute their, let's say, analytical work or any outcomes that they have, or you can just contribute with your ideas, which is very, very valuable. So for this year, there are 3 best practice forums that are being approved by the MAG, and currently the work is underway. So the first one is on gender and access, the second one on the local content, and there's the third one that is on cybersecurity. So how it works in practice, for example, on gender and access. If you go to the IGF website, you will see there is a dedicated page to this where you have the co-facilitators among the MAG members, along with the contact of the Secretariat's responsible person. There are regular virtual meetings every month happening, and you are more than welcome to join any of those meetings and just listen in what the stakeholders have to say and contribute, of course, with your ideas. So just listen and learn at the end of the day if this topic is of your interest. The same goes for all these BPFs. And what's the objective is to gather all those contributions, have an expert that is being usually hired by the IGF Secretariat, and develop a written outcome that will be presented during the annual meeting and that hopefully will be of use to many of the stakeholders within the IGF wider community. So gender and access, I believe this is its 3rd year. We had this BPF last year and the year before during the Brazil and Mexico meeting. And I have to say there was a huge success with this topic and a huge interest. Those virtual meetings that are happening are always attended by many of the stakeholders. There's a really fruitful discussion there. And I think just it's a great source for learning, but also for just exchanging ideas and also for networking, which I think is also very important for you, just to meet the experts and people who are from the field and that hopefully tomorrow can be also your use in a broader sense of that word. So beside the BPFs, there are something that we call the dynamic coalitions. The dynamic coalitions are specific formations of joint stakeholder work. Usually a minimum of 3 stakeholder different groups are joined around one topic. So for example, if your interest is Internet of Things or child online safety or youth issues or Internet and climate change or blockchain technologies or freedom of expression or public access in libraries and so many more, because there are 17 topics that are being covered by DCs, then you can just go to the website, click on the topic that's of your interest, see what are the contact details, contact the stakeholders or the co-facilitators, and engage yourself with the work. There are a lot of resources there where you can learn about this topic, but also you can just join and be on those meetings. The DCs have regularly, collectively, they have monthly meetings, but also individually they have regular meetings. You can subscribe to their mailing list or just ask the Secretariat and we would be happy to connect you with the colleagues there. And just be there, make sure that you are in the field, that you are learning new things, but that you're also contributing with your ideas, because I'm sure that all these co-facilitators and all these formations, the BPS, DCs, they all need your inputs. And the more specific they are, to be honest, the more valuable they are. Beside the DCs, there's a project that is being now running for a 3rd year. It's called the Connecting and Enabling the Next Billions. So that's a very interesting project that had a lot of success during the past 2 years, where the stakeholders were gathering around the CNB and just trying to contribute with their inputs how we can resolve the issues of connectivity and how we can connect the next billion or billions, given the fact that half of the population is still unconnected. So that's also a very interesting project, and of course you are more than welcome also to join this project. They have regular meetings. You can also, I guess, get in touch with Liana as the coordinator for the Armenian IGF, and because the national IGFs and regional IGFs are really probably the most important contributors, especially to this work on the scheme. So if we go to the next slide then, as I said, the the process, the culmination of the process is the IGF annual meeting. So far we hosted 11 meetings. When I say we, I just want you to understand that it's being hosted by a particular government, but organized by the IGF in general. And this year we will have a 12th IGF meeting that will be in Switzerland, in Geneva, here at the UN. What can be of your interest at the IGF annual meeting is that there are a lot of sessions that are on a specific topic. So more than last year, for example, we had more than 200 sessions. A lot of stakeholders, a lot of individuals, participants are there. Last year there were more than 2,500 participants just on site, so at the venue in Jalisco, Mexico. There's also something that's very interesting. It's called the IGF Village, where we have these stakeholders as exhibitors. They have their own stands, booths, and then they are very much approachable there, where you can just go and learn about their good work and how you can engage with them. And I think that's very valuable for you. So here you can just see a couple of photos from the opening and closing plenary session last year. And if we move to the next slide, there is something as a network established years ago. And I think it's very valuable for the IGF, and it's becoming more and more valuable for the IGF, which is the network of the national and regional and youth IGFs. So currently we have 91, we call them the NRIs, right, that's the acronym. There are currently 91 of the NRIs that are being recognized by the IGFs today. When speaking about how the young people can engage with the IGF, I always like to say, as somebody that works directly with the NRIs, is that the first step would be really to see whether your country has a national IGF or your region has a regional IGF or a youth IGF, and then just to engage, first of all, with your home-based IGF, and then through your home-based IGF to be connected with the global IGF. And I think that's the logical path to follow, because the NRIs are following, they have agreed to follow the same core principles as the global IGF. And the global IGF has a great collaborative work with the NRIs. So I'm going to shortly show you what do we do together. But let me just on the next slide show you very briefly this map that kind of illustrates where the NRIs are being positioned. So you can see that they are basically all over the world. There is a really good coverage if you look geographically just and regionally, which is very important to us. The NRIs are bottom-up initiatives, so nobody called for the NRIs speaking from the perspectives of the IGF that's been established under the UN umbrella. But the colleagues and many communities have recognized that their communities have specific issues, their communities have specific challenges, and that the IGF as a model and as a process is good to fit those needs, to identify those issues, and then to try to engage stakeholders and to try to react on those issues. So if we go on the next slide, as I said, the NRIs, although they do wonderful and such an important work individually within their countries and regions, collectively we do a lot of work together. So I do speak a lot with the colleagues, basically on a daily basis. We have regular virtual meetings every month, usually 1 or 2. In order to produce certain things that will be presented at the annual IGF meeting by the NRI as a network. So this is one example of what was happening last year. Armenia IGF was of course there and a really huge contributor to the NRI's work. So for the first time the NRI's had a main session at the IGF that was on a specific topic. There was a very important coordination meeting, which is an open meeting between the UN officials, between the officials coming from the national, regional, and youth IGFs, and the wider community as well. The NRIs had also their booth, which I think was a very effective tool to inform the community and to engage the community if there was an interest from any of the sides. In any case, what I can tell you is after that booth really resulted in increasing the number of the NRIs, because many colleagues were interested to start their NRIs, but just they didn't have opportunity to ask anyone how to start it. And of course, last year we developed a very important document. Armenian IGF was a huge contributor to this document. It's called the NRS Toolkit. It's an advisory document that reflects the basic organizational principles of the NRIs, and that was for the first time done by collectively, at that time, 78 countries and nations. For this year, we have, again, as a network, I think, big plans. So the main session has been approved for the NRIs, and the colleagues will be working on organizing the session on rights in the digital or online world. Besides that, there is something that's very new, historically speaking, for the IGF. It never happened before, and that is that the MAG approved the organization of the so-called NRIs collaborative sessions. These are specific sessions where we will have 3 or more NRIs from different regions just working together as partners on specific issues and bringing the perspectives from their country. So, for example, if you're interested from Armenian IGF, if you have, let's say, as an issue, the human rights and digital rights, then you can partner, let's say, with Ghana IGF, Paraguay IGF, US IGF, or the Sri Lanka IGF, and just come to the Geneva meeting and bring those perspectives so that the wider community can see that even when we have same issues, we have sometimes different perspectives and different challenges. And on the next slide, presents how you can engage with the IGF. So probably I gave a lot of information, especially for those that are kind of newcomers to the IGF, and I know, but I'll give a bit more later for clarification and questions. But I think the first thing would be to visit the IGF website and just what is the intersessional work, what are the topics that are being covered, and then contact the IGF Secretariat, and we would be happy to put you in contact with any of the facilitators or any of the dynamic coalitions or best practice forums or Connecting Enabling the Next Billion, or with the colleagues from the national and regional IGFs, though I think you're very lucky there that you have Liana there, who is very approachable, and I'm sure other colleagues are there, so that you are kind of part of the Armenian national IGF that is a very active contributor in these international waters on internet governance. Also what I think, if you're interested in youth participation, the dynamic coalition on that deals with young people is very active. And there are a lot of colleagues which are active mailing list, first of all, and a lot of colleagues from all over the world that are gathered around that mailing list and around individual working meetings. So for you, that could be also one of the channels to maybe join that work and have the young people from Armenian community represented in these international waters and bring the perspectives from that country. But I also think it's very important that you are informed about what is happening globally so that you can come to your home and say, well, these are the practices that exist in some other parts of the world. Maybe it wouldn't be bad to explore the possibilities, to compare the approaches and see whether we can improve something. And of course, vice versa. From our side, I have to say that we are very much eager to hear about individuals, about their perspectives from their own countries, bringing into the IGF. And I'm sure that the sub-regional and regional IGFs will say the same. Armenia IGF is very active also within the CEDIC, which is the sub-regional IGF for Southeastern Europe. I also know for Europe, but I also know that you're close with the Asia-Pacific IGF, Central Asian, because you have that very specific geographic position that makes you kind of lucky to be all over connected. So in any case, that's in general, I think, how you can engage in about the IGF and the importance of the NRIs network. And as I said, I'm sure it's a lot of information, so maybe you would have any questions, or Liana, if you have any questions for me, so that you can also guide me to be maybe more specific with the colleagues and try to respond on certain concerns.
Anja, thank you very much for your presentation. It was really very interesting and useful. Let me say. If we have a question later on, we can follow up with them. I will send the questions to you if I could not cover them here on the spot. So thank you very much for this presentation. I think our youth will be engaged later on and we will see their work. Okay, yeah.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was really a pleasure, and I am at your full disposal for whatever needed.
Thank you.